and welcome to this first episode of #WeConnect for the 24-25 school year. We are so excited to welcome you back to this series in which we put our strategic plan into action. Today, we have some very special guests, and our topic will be on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Introducing our first guest for today is Miss Amanda Hattar.
Thank you, Dr. Woodland. So hello, everyone. I'm Amanda Hattar, the District DEI Coordinator. I might be new to you, a new face, because I'm fairly new to the district. I was hired on last year, so this is my second year here. So just briefly about me, I've been in education for 11 years now. And before this role, I was actually a high school science teacher. Love that job, but I actually love this one even more. So I'm excited to talk more about what this role is. So as the DEI coordinator, just to define those terms, D stands for diversity, E is equity, I is inclusion. So the diversity is the existence of many identities. Equity provides an environment of fairness where each individual has what they need to meet their full potential. And inclusion is an environment where all individuals are and feel respected and mainly have a sense of belonging. So what is this job? What is the role of this job? So what I do is basically try to close the student achievement gap. We're well aware that our students face barriers as they, come through our doors every day, whether it's students that, speak English as their first language and others don't, or students that have IEPs, others that don't, or students that are first generations, others are not, right? The list can go on and on with barriers. So my role overall is to close that student achievement gap so every student has the proper resources to support their learning.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I think that you just did an excellent job explaining what does diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I don't know about you, but I really think everything that we do here and what your role has really come to be is truly around this concept of inclusion. And I know we're going to get to that point today of making sure that all of our students feel this sense of belonging. Not to ruin the surprise, but there's definitely always surprise coming. So thank you so much for your introduction. Our next special guest for today is Evelyn Lara. And Evelyn is our bilingual liaison. So I'm so happy to welcome Evelyn. If you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Woodland. I, like Amanda, was also hired last year, and I joined the what we call the EP family. But I'm also a parent in the district. I have two children. Both of them have special needs. One of them is on the spectrum, and he currently is at CMS. And my little one is a 6-year-old that terrorizes Northwest School on a daily basis. But I'm very happy to be here today. I suppose when I started this job, in my mind, it was more just kind of doing translations, being a help to the parents, kind of reaching out. And I love that it's becoming so much more complex and it's evolving as I work along with other initiatives, especially with Amanda. And I guess my personal goal for this, for my position, is to foster a sense of belonging, a feeling fellowship. I feel like we are all on the same team as parents, educators, administrators for our children. And that's kind of what I want to make other parents feel, whether they're newcomers, English is not their first language, as Amanda mentioned. I think that's very important. And I want to make each parent and each student feel welcome into our community. So to do that, I guess there's 4 things that I typically try to focus on is improve communication. By this, I mean establishing communication between the schools, the families, and the communities. Our newcomer committee is working with parents to improve their understanding of the school system and to be able to minimize any linguistic barriers. Mm-hmm. The next thing that I focus on is increased involvement. Encourage parents and family to be more involved with their children's education. The schools hold a wide range of events throughout the year that provide multicultural opportunities for parents to be more involved. Supporting academic success by helping students succeed academically by providing resources and training for the parents. One of the things that I find great is the district's partnership with various organizations One of them being like Moraine Valley Community College, which provides English language classes for adult learners. And there's a ton of other resources that parents can tap into, regardless of language, culture, such as counseling. Um, the final point is promoting diversity and inclusion, just celebrating the differences and promoting a culture of respect and collaboration. A number of events have taken place to celebrate cultural diversity within the district. One of them was a soccer viewing party, which we hosted in September to kick off Hispanic Heritage Month. I worked very closely with Amanda on this, and a lot of community members came out, even members that did not have students enrolled within our school community. So that was a really nice surprise. We also, the VPAC meeting, which I also work closely with, just held their annual Dia de los Muertos celebration at CMS, and Mayor Burke came to visit. She stopped by, so that was, a very nice surprise, very exciting, and it was a really nice event. Additionally, each school incorporates multicultural practices within the school day, such as in their announcements, they incorporated historical figures during Black History Month. And I just recently learned that there's a gym teacher at Southwest School that, in doing exercise with the children, they count their exercise reps in a different language every week.
I love that.
So I think the district is doing a very nice job of just making everybody feel included and as they belong.
Thank you so much, Evelyn and Amanda. And, I think ultimately these two positions, and, as you both mentioned, they are new to the district not that long ago. And it was really to ensure that we put our strategic planning into action. And so one of the 5 goal areas, as we've mentioned, in our strategic plan is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of the beauties of Evergreen Park is the diverse demographics of our community, but then also being able to meet the cultural needs of our staff and cultural needs of our community in a bigger picture scope of work. And in order to do that effectively, we really needed people to help lead that out. And so we have Amanda and Evelyn that really help supporting us in making sure that we are making those connections with families and our students on a daily basis. So our strategic plan goals for diversity, equity, and inclusion are listed here for you, but Amanda is going to go into a little bit more detail.
Yeah, so just to preface, what is a strategic plan and why it's important? A strategic plan is a plan the district puts in place to guide their decisions and to guide the goals that need to be accomplished. There are many stakeholders involved in a strategic plan, which spans over, the strategic plan can go over the span of 3 to 4 years, depending on the district. And it's just a plan for, it's like a guide in a sense. So, in making the plan, you have parents, staff, administrators, many different stakeholders that are a part of making it. So a part of the strategic plan is diversity, equity, inclusion. And it's spelled out here on the screen of the different initiatives that are important to the district for us to follow in order to be more successful. So you could see just right here on the screen. So 4A is to create an equity belief statement, something that all the schools know to be true, staff and students. It's also to demonstrate cultural responsiveness, to view the district shall view student behavior through a culturally responsive lens. This one's really important to us, and we're currently working on steps towards achieving this one. Recruitment efforts, right? Being able to not only hire diverse staff, qualified diverse staff, but also put initiatives in place to be able to retain diverse staff. And then last but not least is to review our curriculum that's in place to make sure that it is equitable and represents the diversity of our student population.
Thank you so much, Amanda. You did a great job explaining that. I like to always just think of a strategic plan as a roadmap that helps us to get to our end outcome. And, ultimately it is to really drive systems change in a school district. And so stakeholder feedback was a big part of that process. And this really came from our community members. And we are making sure that we drive that systems change every single day. So next, we're going to talk about our 5 strands of systematic equity that is tied to our internal. It's called our DELT committee, and Amanda is going to go into a little bit more detail as to what our DELT committee means and what it looks like in practice.
Yeah, so this was started a couple of years ago. So DELT stands for the District Equity Leadership Team. There are 28 members ranging from teachers, paraprofessionals, building and district administrators. And all 28 of us, we come together and we comprise DELT, again, District Equity Leadership Team. And the main goal of DELT is to be able to provide an equity lens and make sure that we're doing the proper equity work in each of the big, you could kind of think of them like buckets that take place in our district. Mm-hmm. So to have an appropriate equity lens through our systems subcommittee, our teaching and learning subcommittee, student voice, climate and culture, professional learning, and then family as community agency, which means just as family and community as partnership. So there's 5 subcommittees in this overarching committee called DELT. And again, each of them is meant to do their work through an equity lens.
Thank you so much. And so now I'm going to describe, I oversee the systems strand. And these are just a couple of bullets of things that we've worked on as a strand specifically. However, there's much more, everyday action that's associated with these projects. So the goal of the systems strand is to ensure that this is a systemic and continuous improvement process, and that we really look at all of our policies and procedures to ensure that there is district alignment. And one of the first things that we did is that we created that glossary of terms to really define some of the important concepts that were coming up, but not every community member or every teacher had the same understanding of what that means. And we created that belief statement around equity, diversity, and inclusion. All of those resources are currently located on our website if you're curious to learn more. The other thing that we accomplished was to develop a board policy because we wanted clear alignment between the Board of Education, our current administration, our teachers, our students, and our parents. And ultimately, those policies should really drive our everyday and ensure that we know where we stand from a philosophical standpoint, but what is that policy for implementation? And then last, the district is really working very strategically so on ensuring that we are implementing behavioral consequences in a systematic way. And we are currently in the process of piloting a very strategic behavioral matrix chart at the administrative level to ensure cohesiveness and consistency in administration of consequences to kids. And, ultimately that goal is really driven on something that a lot of districts see and experience. And that is also driven by the fact that some students, particularly students of color, have a higher rate of exclusionary disciplinary practices, which would include in-school and out-of-school suspensions. There's a lot of research to support that in-school and out-of-school suspensions is not necessarily the end-all, be-all to basically providing the support to a child that they need to be successful, that the consequence itself is not ultimately going to give the child what they need. And so we are really taking a deep dive into this and making sure that we're being equitable in our discipline practices.
So our next strand is the teaching and learning strand, which is led by our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Ashley Carlson. And this strand is meant to ensure that our curriculum, instruction, assessments are all in a place to advance equity for our students. And there's different action steps behind all of this. The first one is to evaluate our district curriculum. And we have done it and will continue to do so. So this is all pretty much ongoing, right? Mm-hmm. So we have different curriculums, whether it's Springboard, Eureka, CKLA. We've used a scorecard to make sure that all of these curriculums are equitable and they on the scorecard. And we'll continue to revisit this as the years go on. Also, another part of this committee is to analyze standardized testing. One main one is our STAR data. STAR stands for Standardized Testing and Reporting. I know there's a lot of acronyms, but it's to review our STAR data to see discrepancies, to see where our students are scoring, and to try to help fill in those gaps to help our students achieve at a higher level. And then the third main action step is to review the buildings, each 5 of the buildings, their summative designation report. And what the summative designation report is, it's an annual report that appears on the Illinois school report card, and it describes how well each school is doing. So we'll have ongoing annual reviews of this in this strand.
And if I can share too something really exciting about particularly Central Middle School. So when we started here, both Dr. Carlson and myself, in regards to really truly needing to meet the needs of our English language learners, Central Middle School was considered a targeted school. And that essentially meant that our EL population was not performing at the level to which they needed to perform. And so we put some very specific and strategic action into place in order to support that group of students, which would include evaluating programming district-wide, as well as increasing access to students with curriculum resources, as well as increasing staff to support that group of students. And since a variety of those initiatives, we are now considered a commendable school at Central Middle School. And I ultimately believe that is because of the driving force that, we really were intentional about the practices that we were putting in front of children to make sure that we're meeting the cultural needs of them in their curriculum and instruction. So it's a huge, huge celebration. All right. Next, I think Amanda's going to talk, or is Evelyn, you're going to talk a little bit about student voice. Evelyn, you're muted.
I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about the student voice, climate, and culture. This is another strand within the DELT committee. And the main goal is to form and sustain student equity leadership committees in each building. So last year, the students were surveyed to obtain feedback on how is everything going? Do they feel there's representation? And is there a sense of belonging in their schools? And so the next step for this coming year, this particular strand will be forming student groups or joining existing groups in which they can provide a space for advocacy and action led by the students.
That's great. Thank you so much, Evelyn, for sharing that. And our next, we thought we'd throw a bit of a surprise in here. So we have an additional special guest who's going to come on with us. And her name is Megan Franco. And this is just a topic that she's super passionate about. So we asked her to also be a special guest with us today. And she is the Northeast and Northwest Assistant Principal. So Megan, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself briefly.
Sure. Surprise. My name is Megan Franco. I am, as Dr. Woodland said, I'm the assistant principal at Northeast and Northwest schools. I also run the Family and Community as Partnerships strand of our DELT committee. I'm really excited about the work that we're doing. And as Dr. Woodland said, I feel very passionate about this. So I'm super excited to share the things that we've already begun doing this year, and the work and the people that are involved in this work. So thank you. One of the greatest assets I truly believe that we have as an EP family, as Dr. Woodland also mentioned, is the diversity that we have among our students and our families and our community. We really believe that one of the ways we bring people together is by understanding the stories, the histories, the languages, the traditions of the students and the families that we serve here in EP. I found that when we do this, especially as an administrator, you see things from a broader lens, and I see the positive impact it's making on the work we do within curriculum, the work within our discipline policies, our PBIS systems, how we build culture through the relationships that we're building. I mean, I can go on and on about why this work is so important. We're doing so much work to bring cultural awareness to our students so that they can go into the world and not only be comfortable with, but have an appreciation of others who may be different from them. We're teaching them that we might not always agree or believe in the same things, or maybe we haven't walked in the same shoes as someone else, but we can respect and appreciate everyone's story and their differences. So in addition to the work we're doing within the school day for our students, we really want to incorporate families into the mix and bring them into this work. So in our strand, our focus is really to reach out to develop meaningful relationships with our families, making sure their diverse voices are heard, while also celebrating and bringing awareness to all the cultures we represent as an EP family. I am super excited. Last month we met as our to form our first event and kind of start the initial planning stages of our cultural night we'll be hosting. Right now we currently have about 20 people, so our strand is growing. In the mix, it's a mix of staff and families. And like I said, we're meeting monthly to plan cultural events. So our first event is a cultural night that will take place on February 27th from 6 to 8 at Northeast School. We are looking to include things within the night that are common among all cultures. We all have similarities. It's really celebrating our differences. So we're incorporating, art, food, music, and dance. And then we also want to put those and highlight those spins that each culture puts on each of these things, within the night. We're collaborating with our culture club at CMS. We are, collaborating with our BPAC, our Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee. We are collaborating with our TBE classrooms, which is our transitional bilingual education classrooms, to really get everyone involved in the experience. We're inviting families to create our own recipes. We all have like that recipe that grandma, or someone has kind of passed down from generation to generation within our cultures. So we're going to ask families to share those recipes and put them together in our first ever, I think, to my knowledge, EP family cookbook and share it out with the community. So really excited about that because I am not a great cook. So it'd be nice to have those recipes on hand. So anyways, there's so much great energy, even meeting the families that have participated so far. And I'm hoping to, continue recruiting more. Their energy and their passion for the work, it's invigorating. And, kind of sharing that passion with them, it just brings me so much joy. And then our next event is going to be our Juneteenth event. And we'll start planning that a little bit more after our culture night. So save the date. We're looking to have a barbecue somewhere close for families to come together and celebrate and kind of commemorate this special day. We encourage, it's really important. Sometimes when we plan these events, if we plan something for Hispanic Heritage Month or Native American History Month, we find that sometimes these families are the families that come, but we really want to encourage all families to come and celebrate these events with us, with all of our events.
Sorry. We are in school. It's okay.
Sorry. There was a fire alarm just before this presentation, so I'm glad that's not happening. So even if we're not a part of the culture that we're celebrating, we're really trying to foster this, culture where we are all supporting one another. We're all aware of each other's cultures. And, I think that awareness kind of brings us together rather than dividing us. So in doing this, everyone's going to feel supported, everyone feels welcome, and everyone feels at home in our community. And that as a strand is our ultimate goal.
Thank you so much. And I think you'll continue to see throughout this presentation today and just in general that it is our overall goal is that everyone does feel welcomed here in Evergreen Park. And that is really leading us to our next point regarding professional learning. And then Amanda's going to speak to our I Belong in Evergreen.
So I want to talk briefly. So Matt Bannock is the strand leader. He is the Northwest principal. The goal of the professional learning strand is really to provide a continuum of professional learning and growth opportunities for all staff in pursuit of educational equity. For example, every year we have a District 124 Academy at the beginning of the year where our first, second, and third year teachers go and get some professional development on different topics. So Amanda Hattar will go and present to teachers. Last year, the presentation was on communication. She also will go within the buildings throughout the year and present to the different schools on these topics. So within communication, she talked about, looking at everything through an equity lens, the way we communicate through email, looking at acronyms and having this awareness that some cultures might not be aware of different acronyms that we're using. Using people's names correctly, that's so much tied to your identity. And so, really not overlooking the importance of making it a very, just a huge effort to pronounce people's names correctly, find out how to pronounce their names, and continue getting in that habit. And then the second part, this year, we're focusing more on building that student and teacher relationship. So not only how do we form relationships with the students and the families that we serve, but also how do we mend relationships that might be broken and kind of bringing that all together through a cultural lens.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Amanda's going to talk about her beautiful theme that actually our DELT committee did come up with, but I know she contributed to quite a bit.
Yeah, so this is exciting stuff. And this came from DELT. So DELT noticed that our district does a great job of fostering a sense of belonging. We genuinely do initiatives and programs that include families and parents, staff, and students. There's something for everyone in our district. And so we kind of wanted to wrap up all the initiatives that are being done into one message. And that one message is, I belong in Evergreen. And, you know, the image you're seeing on the screen right now is the artwork that's being used on pins that are being passed around. I actually have mine on my lanyard right here. And this is just, see, there you go. And this is just a visual reminder that everyone belongs in Evergreen, that you belong in Evergreen. And so each star represents a school in our district. And we have our quadrant, but our quadrant's open, meaning we welcome people into our community and into our schools. And so what are the things that we do to help foster a sense of belonging for all? There's many different things. So again, this is on the teacher level, the parent level, and the student level. So we have Equity Unleashed. This is more so geared towards teachers and their professional development. Equity Unleashed is a network I created last year with South Cook, and this is for the whole South Cook region, so all 66 districts and co-ops. And what I quickly noticed was we needed a network. There was not a network that represented all of our districts in South Cook in order for us to have a space to be able to communicate, share ideas, and just grow in this space and in this work. And so we meet 4 times a year for this network. And people from all over the districts come out and they come to the network. So this was our last meeting that we just had, and our next one is December 4th. So it's just a great space for all the professionals from the different districts to come together.
Thank you for putting that together. I mean, I think it's just been a great, like you said, networking, an opportunity for all of South Cook leaders to come together and really talk about such an important and critical topic.
Yeah, of course. And then our next one is a program I actually applied to, and I got accepted into their facilitator fellowship. It's the Teach Plus program. It's an awesome program Illinois provides in order to be able to help fund and help me run an affinity group in our district, specifically our educators of color. So the picture on the right was our first meeting. The one on the left is our second meeting. We have our next one November 20th. And what is an affinity group? It's basically a safe space. It's a space for educators of color to be able to come, gather, share their concerns, share their positive moments. It's just a space for us to connect together and have that space for each other. Eventually, you know, for advocacy and to be able to support what our teachers need. And ultimately, this is to be able to help retain our educators of color in the district so that they feel that they belong in our district. And hopefully they'll bring more diverse candidates our way that will be able to grow our family even more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Watchdog. So this was Dr. Woodland put this on the map. We're piloting it right now at Central Middle School, and it's been going great. So Watchdogs is a program. DOG stands for Dads of Great Students. It's a national program that allows dads to be more involved in their child's education. And so we have some pictures here of dads that we've had that have volunteered at the middle school. And there's 2 main goals of Watchdogs. The first one is just to provide positive male role models in the building. And just for dads to be more involved in their child's education and just to see what's going on, be in the classrooms, be in the hallways, supervise the lunchroom. And so we hope to expand this from Central Middle School into the elementary schools for next year. But the second main goal is to also reduce bullying and enhance school security. So 2 main goals, and it's a great program that's been rolling out really well. And we see plans of expanding it into a mentorship aspect as well as it progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really critical to mention too is that we know that education is full of a lot of females. And so we want to ensure that we encourage as many male role models to our kids as possible. And just by having dads who are willing to come out and volunteer their time. And, we had a parent committee meeting the other night, and a parent had also mentioned that they didn't recognize that the dad can stay at the school all day long. And yes, they can stay at school all day long, and that's what we're encouraging. And they don't have to follow around their own child. We can put them on a very different schedule if it's not something that their child is entirely comfortable with. And so we're willing to be flexible and really just put the dads to work. So we're excited to offer this opportunity.
I have to say, though, for the kids whose parents have shown up, the embarrassment turns into a face full of pride.
Yeah.
In 15 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That is so great to hear.
Yep.
So great to hear.
And if you know a dad, we're still recruiting for this too. We'd still like to expand it. So if you know a dad or are a dad that would like to volunteer, please let us know, as we'll get you all the information and get you on board for that. More belonging items. So just two more. So Mrs. Patricia Roberts, who's our HR director, is really thoughtful on how she's been going about the efforts of recruiting diverse staff. So we've been attending different career fairs, education fairs, all over, from U of I to Eastern to ISU, Illinois State University, to Northeastern. So we go as a staff, represent our school in these career fairs, and get our name out there and be able to recruit the top qualified candidates that we're able to interact with and get them on board to join our district.
That's great. Yes, our recruitment efforts, I will continue to say this. We started the school year 100% filled in the district, and that is unheard of in today's world, especially with the high needs of recruitment and retention for teachers. And so I'm just so proud. And I know it's definitely has a lot to do with Patricia and Amanda's efforts at all of these different events.
And then our last, but certainly not least, and there's many more, but this is, again, just a glimpse of our sense of belonging initiatives, is Special Olympics. So we started this last year. We're going to have our second annual Special Olympics event this year. And this is just a way for students who receive special education services and students who don't receive special education services to be able to play sports together. And just, there's 8 weeks of practice, so they're able to mingle and play off of each other. And, it just builds that sportsmanship and just that relationship building. And then it all leads up to the culminating event day in May, where they're able to compete in 8 different sports through 8 different stations. And it's just a great uplifting day for our community and our students to participate in this. So it will be happening again this year, and I'm very excited for that as well.
Thank you so much. Yes, it was just an unbelievable event. And I think too, this is an important reminder that diversity, equity, inclusion is not just about the cultural background of our students. It's also about our special education students and a variety of other factors. And I think our mind has a tendency to go to race and culture, but it is definitely supporting the needs of our special ed students. So great. All right. So that concludes, I believe, our presentation for today. Is that accurate, ladies? Or is there any other information that you'd like to share? Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot because normally I ask questions. So I think you can all handle this question. So Amanda and Evelyn and Megan, just tell me, what are you most proud about with this work in Evergreen Park?
I can start off.
That's great.
That there's space for this work. It's needed, and we see that it's needed, whether it's being analytical and looking at the data and seeing the discrepancies in the data, or even just being around students and being in the classrooms and around staff and seeing that more of this work is needed, and then having the space for it. I think that's what I'm proud of the most, is that our district leadership, Dr. Woodland, Dr. Carlson, they've made space for this work. I think that's what I'm the most proud of, because you don't find that at every district, but at Evergreen, it's possible. And
Yeah,
it's here.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I
Evelyn, what
think
about you?
Yeah, I would just reiterate the same thing. For me, it's actually being able to see the parents and the children kind of, even like mostly for our newcomers. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very important. They walk in the door, they don't know how to expect. Parents, they come from different countries, even where the grading system is different.
Right.
Um, and I think, Rob and Amanda, as well as Megan, and a lot of the administration here is realizing that there is a need for
Mm-hmm.
certain things that we see as common day, things that happen for us, right? We expect certain things
Right.
because we either grew up here, we were born here, we are already part of, the culture and the system. But for these new parents, I have really, really enjoyed it. I'm very proud of what the district is doing to make them feel welcome, to make them feel they're a part, and that we're here for them to provide the support that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important. I was in a PD on that topic, and the trainer was saying, what if you, Jenna, were picked up and put into a new country like India, for example, and you didn't speak the language? Yes, you're clearly intelligent, you're smart, right? But you don't speak the language. Think about how that would make you feel. And it really resonated with me, and it resonated with me for so many reasons. And it's just this overall level of comfort and making sure that when a newcomer does come to our environment and does not speak the language, that we still make them feel as invited as possible, and that they do have resources at their hands, that they can reach out to any one of us in any way, shape, or form, and we will make sure that they get what they need to be successful.
Yeah, and the same is true for the special needs community,
Yeah.
especially parents who are, their primary language is not English. I think, it can be very intimidating
Yeah.
to show up to an IEP meeting
Yeah.
and not really understanding, what the goals for their child are. And for them to
Absolutely.
understand that we are on the same team, that the district wants their child to reach their optimal potential. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something I try to work very hard to achieve, to kind of let them go home with that sense of it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much. And Megan, last but not least, what are you most proud of?
So I think the thing that I'm most proud of is I think when the topic of DEI became, so important, I think that schools had a hard time knowing what that looks like and what the actions were to put in place. So it's like a Band-Aid. I've had experiences where, let's put a Martin Luther King poster on the board and a Frida Kahlo poster, and we're going to call that DEI, and we're exposing kids to, different cultures and different people. What I'm most excited about in EP is that there's a really intentional plan in place, and to be here even from last year to this year to see the increase in the things that we're doing. I mean, each school is doing daily announcements every month to incorporate messaging on,
Mm-hmm.
influential figures. I know some of the schools are doing like homeschool connections where we're not just educating students, we're educating families and giving them these meaningful activities to incorporate, after school and bring back into the classroom to talk about. Different, celebrations we're having in the schools that are more, we're planning these things with more of a cultural lens. So it really feels meaningful that we're very intentional about what we're doing. And I'm just so excited to be a part of it.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, I am super proud of each of you because we could not do this work without all of your leadership and commitment. And so thank you so much for joining our hashtag We Connect webinar series. So we are going to sign off for now, and you guys have a wonderful day.